Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us. I'm Josh.
And I'm Sarah.
And we are the Hiking Fools, guiding you through the trails of Glacier National Park with unique personal insight. And I've got to say, you may know this already, but this is all from experience. These are hikes that we have done. We've done multiple times. We're leading you through. It's like you're walking with us. This is not just information. You can Google search and get all kinds of information on these hikes. But the point here is that Sarah and I have been on the trails. We can tell you exactly what it's like and give you some highlights and give you some advice and a little bit deeper than just finding out, through a guide, what type of hike you're looking at. So we've been on the trails. I'm usually behind, following her up, looking at her cute little behind, and headed up the hill. And we're together, we're having fun, and now we're going to bring it to you. Today we are discussing, in this episode, the Huckleberry Lookout Trail. And this is a good one. Sarah, I think there are 9 lookouts in the park, and four of them manned. We love the lookouts. I mean, it's cool to get to the top of a high point and kind of check out and look in the windows and walk around the catwalk of the lookouts in the park. And this is one of our favorites, Huckleberry Lookouts, there on the kind of southwest side of Glacier.
Yeah, and this is a fire lookout that is staffed, as Josh said. The other 3 are Numa, Scalp Lock, and Swift Current. So how do we get to this trailhead? It's off the Camas Road, and it's 6 miles west of Apgar Village. And if you're coming from the west entrance, it's 8 miles. So it's not too difficult to get to, and driving the Camas Road is pretty beautiful. There's kind of open prairies and little places where you can look for wildlife.
Yeah, I love it. I love that area. And Sarah said, come in the main entrance, take a left, you go past Fish Creek Campground, just continue on, and the sign for the trail is on the left side of the road, Huckleberry Lookout. And it's a great start, and you kind of see where you're headed. And it's a little bit more off the beaten path than right there in Apgar area.
Yeah, it's a small little parking area, and it's labeled moderately strenuous. It's 11 and a half miles. You could go 12 if you go past the lookout just a little bit, because it's kind of fun to go a little further and look out, and you got views of the Bob Marshall, the North Fork, you got down into McDonald Valley. So it's kind of cool to go a little further, which you can too, and explore a little bit.
Yeah, about a 12 mile round trip, 3,400 feet of elevation gain on this hike. So that's it's pretty steep.
It's a steep one.
It doesn't happen all at once though, right? I mean, you kind of start out more level.
Yeah, so the first half mile is pretty flat, and you're in kind of a thick forest area. So if you go in the summertime, you expect some bugs. And the namesake, boy, there's huckleberries. So in mid to late summer, early fall, you will see a lot of huckleberries. So be super bear aware, because it is a little bit thick until you get up a little higher. Be on the lookout.
Yeah, for sure. Be looking around. That's one of my personal flaws. Sarah, did you see that? I said, no, I didn't see anything. I really somehow don't look around me, and not very observant. But you have to. And that's why it's great to hike in groups, right? In Glacier.
Yeah.
It's never good to go alone. And the bigger the group, the better, probably, because you create a little bit more of a posse against the wildlife, and they're less interested in approaching. But yeah, I love that. It's a 12-mile round trip hike with over 3,000 feet of elevation gain, and you gave them a little hope there. Well, the first half mile's somewhat level, so
you got a little time to warm up, I guess.
Yeah, right. But it's a great trail. It's pretty woodsy, as you said. But it's really neat. I mean, what else happens as we're walking along the trail?
Well, like I said, it does eventually open up. I really personally like to do this hike in the fall, because the foliage is just beautiful, especially all the huckleberry bushes. They turn that kind of maroon color, and so they stand out. And there's a good chance you're going to find berries still in the fall. So they kind of stand out for you. But the lookout is up at 6,000 feet, 6,593 feet. So like Josh said, you are gaining some incredible elevation, but about maybe a little less than a mile before you get to the lookout, you'll come to a ridge point, and you can see it off in the distance. And the steepest part is behind you, which is really nice. So you kind of watch the lookout in front of you, and it's not too strenuous. And on this narrow ridge where you can kind of look down in the valley, and I think it's really beautiful.
I love it. Yeah, I love that point too, where you can see your destination. And we always talk about it looks right there, but it's also far away, but you also get there just one step at a time, get there pretty quickly. And I want to mention, if I can, the Huckleberry, like you said, it's the namesake of the trail, obviously all throughout Glacier National Park in Montana. And it's a lot of people ask, what is the Huckleberry? And it's like, well, it's blueberry's cousin, and it is different. It tastes slightly different. And I wanted to talk about, how they can't be cultivated, or they're very difficult to be cultivated or to cultivate. And they require specific conditions that are really difficult to replicate in a garden. A certain acidic soil and a symbiotic relationship with native fungi.
Well, they're like a rhizome, aren't they? Do they kind of connect underneath like an aspen grove?
And yeah, it's, as you mentioned, it's a very delicate horizontal root system. It's difficult to transplant. You can't just dig these up and transplant them. They grow very slowly. And they just take a lot of years even to get going, to reach full maturity. I've heard like up to 15 years to produce fruit. And it's so difficult to recreate the natural environment where huckleberries thrive.
And that's why I hog face them up when I'm on the trail. I just get my fill.
Oh, okay.
And the huckleberry, I always tell my kids, look for the purple.
She eats a lot of them. Is what that
And
term.
then I'm old, so then my back hurts. So anyways, I tell the kids to look for the purple berry that's hiding under leaves and has a belly button. So when you see it, you know it. I just wanted to correct myself. So when you get to that bend on the ridge, you have about 2 miles left before you get to the lookout. So I said a less than a half a mile. It's actually 2 miles, which isn't terrible because, like I said, the worst is behind you as far as steepness goes. So
optimism. We're like you're almost there. Isn't that great when you're passing people on the trail? You can tell how far is it. You're almost there. No matter what, it just gives them hope. Some people like to, I don't know, you like to be a realist or an optimist and say, oh, you still have a long way to go. And they just look defeated. But
and I want to touch base on this little ridge area that I mentioned a couple times. So in early season, that's a great place where snow likes to linger in that ridge area. And it's super dangerous to cross. There's been people that have fallen down. Yeah. So make sure that if you do encounter snow, don't attempt it. The trail really narrows there and it drops rather rapidly. So it's not a place to cross snow. So if you encounter snow, just turn around. The mountain's not going anywhere. It's not worth it.
That's your favorite phrase lately. I like it. The mountain's not going anywhere. So we've told stories about, things where we've tried and attempted and failed in terms of, whether it's weather or for whatever reason. And I love it. Sarah says the mountain's not going anywhere. So you can always go back in a safer situation. And this one used to be called, I want to mention too, the wildlife. We always see bald eagles circling on that Camas Road. And this Huckleberry Lookout actually used to be called Eagle Peak by the Kootenai Indigenous folks. And, they're circling around there. I always think it's a great sign when a bald eagle is circling a peak. To me, that's like, go forth, my son, and conquer.
I didn't know all that. That was pretty interesting. Thank you. I do want to note that this forest it's thick because it hasn't burned in over 100 years. So it's kind of I don't know if you would consider it an old growth forest. I think that needs to be a little bit older, but so that's why the vegetation is so thick in that area. But a fire did come through there a few times and burned not too far down the road in the 60s. So it's interesting. It kind of missed this whole area here. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. There's, it's a natural occurrence in Glacier. We've talked about that before. Some areas you can totally tell, the trees are like matchsticks and grayed out. But some places, they're, as you mentioned, mature and who knows? It's a natural process. It's devastating, but it's also kind of rebirth, right? It's new life when that goes through, when fire goes through. So we have actually a lot more to say about the Huckleberry Lookout Trail, and we're going to take a short break, but stick with us. We've got another segment coming right up.
Freedom Bank isn't the biggest bank in the world, but neither is Glacier National Park, and look how incredible it is. We believe small can be mighty. We know your name, we know your goals, and we bring the banking tools you need no matter if you live in Columbia Falls, Kalispell, or halfway up Grinnell Glacier Trail. Proud sponsor of Hiking Fools. Let's climb higher together. Member FDIC.
All right, welcome back. We are the Hiking Fools, and we have been discussing the Huckleberry Lookout Trail in Glacier National Park in the southwest area of the park. Very woodsy. You see a lot of mountain ash on this trail, and you mentioned the huckleberry plants already. Throughout the season, things are changing color, and so that's what we love, honestly, about Glacier National Park is go in the spring, and it's one type of experience. You've got snow in places that you still have to cross, but yet it feels sunny and warmer, especially as you get up higher. And then in the height of summer, everything's in bloom, all of the wildflowers, the bear grass, the huckleberries, and then in the fall, colors are changing. And Montana has its own colors that the yellows and the greens, but then the bushes and things like that turn red. So it really, with the bright bluebird Montana sky, it's just beautiful.
Well, I like to go in the fall too, not only because of the colors, but you kind of avoid the bugs, and it's steep, it's hot.
Mm-hmm. You love the hot.
Oh my gosh, Jeez, it's so red.
Slogging up the side of the mountain in the hottest unprotected weather.
Well, the fall, it's cooler, and like I said, it's dense in the beginning, but it does open up, and you get a little more exposed. So it's hot if the sun's shining. So in the fall, it's a little nicer to go because it's cooler.
Yeah. Great time to hike in Glacier. September has been a great month the last couple of years, and so we love that. You might see us out as we get a final few adventures in. But so you're headed up to the lookout. I mean, the trail is terrific in itself, but you get there to the high point. You're at this lookout. It looks like something from a Jack Kerouac novel. I remember hiking this 20 years ago, and looking in the window, kind of scouting it out, what's it like in there? A view for miles and miles, which is a cool place to be. There's little books and, shelf of books and a couple of maps, a tea kettle, and a simple bunk. I mean, this is not a huge place, but there is somebody that and like you said, looking in the windows, make sure you give them respect too, because someone is living up there for the season, kind of helping out there. The person isn't always there when you're there. They do take breaks and come down. Okay.
But usually they're very helpful and very friendly. They like seeing people. Fresh fruits and vegetables are kind of hard to come by, so bring them an apple or something.
So bring a snack. Maybe not huckleberries because they have plenty.
But if you know that the person's there, maybe, avoid going up on the catwalk or something. But
no way, I'm looking
usually they come down and they like to chat a little bit. But so if you don't want to endure the Huckleberry Lookout Trail, like we said, it's steep. You have another alternative if you want to get out in this section of the park. So the Huckleberry Nature Trail is just a little ways down the road, and that's a really good alternative.
Yeah, Huckleberry Nature Trail. It is. It's great. It's well marked, and I think it provides a lot of points of interest where you can read a little bit more about what you're seeing.
They seasonally have little, interpretive signs that you can look at in the parking lot specifically. Mm-hmm. But I think it's only 2 miles past Huckleberry Lookout if you're coming from the west entrance. If you're coming from the Camas entrance, it's like 0.3 miles. But to get to the Camas entrance takes you a little while too. So, it's kind of a crazy dirt road, but it's a great place to be. And this is a part of the section I mentioned the 1967 fire. This did burn, so it's kind of cool to walk through now and kind of see where the forest is, something that burned back then and where it's at now.
Yeah. The younger trees are just brilliant green. I love seeing that, actually. And as I mentioned, it's exciting. It's like new life and the growth of a forest right in front of your eyes. In fact, we were here on the Glacier Institute, which we talked to Anthony Nelson from there a couple of episodes ago, and they take classes here, and so the kids get out and see maybe a ptarmigan and the trees and the growth, and they talk about the fire and the life cycle of nature.
Yeah, you won't see ptarmigan here, but definitely grouse. The ptarmigan like that, higher alpine level. But this is a half a mile loop. You go through kind of the burned area. It doesn't look very burned anymore. Mm-hmm. And it's not necessarily level. Even though it's labeled easy, it does drop 100 feet and kind of rises 100 feet back. So it's not terrible, but if you're
Hey,
hard time getting around. You just never know. So, I don't want anybody to get into a situation where it's hard to come back out if you drop down. But it's a really nice trail. It's a good family trail.
That's true. Yeah, you can take most people on this. And there are accessible trails in the park. If you need that, go ahead and look it up, Trail of the Cedars and some others. But this is, a lot of times we're talking about a 10 to 15 to 20 mile hike. But there are options in Glacier and something for everyone. And the Huckleberry Nature Trail is a good option to either, choose that instead of the Lookout or maybe add it on and just kind of get a real good feel for this area. I think it's funny. I was thinking about this. We actually have never hiked this together. I did it solo once, in 2005 when we were working in the park, and you've done it a couple of times.
I've done it a couple of times with family visiting that, maybe struggles a little bit with movement. So it's a good alternative. Yeah, that's true. We've never done it together.
And even the Lookout, same thing. So we'll have to get out there.
Yeah, I did it with friends.
And and hike this up. But it's a wonderful hike. There's a lot to look at. And again, having a Lookout as the destination is always pretty fun.
Yeah, well, and you can do either hike and go jump in the river. That's right there.
That's right.
You got
made
the
a
North
note
Fork
of that.
River right there.
Yeah, access to water, and that's a good thing to plan, right? I mean, it doesn't take up much space in your either pack or vehicle, and much weight. And there's plenty of water sources around the park, whether it's a river, a small lake, or a high alpine lake, and bring your tough outer skin, because if you jump in these lakes, they are cold.
Yeah, and actually, speaking of water source, if you do Huckleberry Lookout, there really isn't anything. There's a little stream in the beginning that you may or may not cross depending on the season with moisture, but that's a good one to pack in some water. And, Huckleberry Lookout or Huckleberry Nature Trail, you shouldn't need any water. It's only a half a mile loop, but heck, you're not that far from Polebridge, so get out for a little hike and go up to Polebridge Mercantile in the North Fork area and get yourself a pastry. That's a good, post-hike
It absolutely
snack.
is, yeah. This is a really neat area to explore up and down that Camas Road. And I wanted to mention this hike is great to me because, you're heading west as you set out in the morning. And you're coming back east in the evening or later, and so the sun is always at your back. I like to consider that when you're hiking in Glacier, the trail that heads west first. The rising sun is highlighting what's in front of you, and the sun's kind of warming your back. But then, quite obviously, then you're coming the other direction later in the day, and the sun is again highlighting the things that you didn't see as your back was turned to them. So this is a trail that is, it lends itself to, lighting up your path. And it's just kind of nice to have the sun behind you more so than in your face. So it highlights the features of the trail, and something to consider, if it's a hot day or if you're just wanting to, get some great photos and have perfect lighting.
So I mentioned the forest fire of 1967. So this little forest area around Huckleberry Nature Trail, it's kind of it's regenerating, it's recovering, and very healthily. It's thick, but it's lodgepole pines, and you got a lot of larch in there. Lodgepoles, they really have no defense against wildfire. It's kind of interesting, but the heat is really important. It's not the fire itself, but the heat is what opens up the serratinous cones, which basically that's just sealed with resin, that opens them up and helps the tree to regenerate. These seeds are sealed with this thick pitch otherwise, but the heat kind of helps loosen them and they spread those seeds around. So
that's the only way, right?
Yeah. So that's kind of cool. But the larch are a little bit different. The bark is very useful. So it kind of protects the tree. It's super thick. So as the fire goes through and kind of tries to light the tree up and passes along, the bark falls off. Because it's just so thick. So the fire burns through and this tree is safe afterwards. So it's really, really nice.
Love those larch in the fall. They look to me like they're glowing. They've got the beautiful dark branch and then these soft yellow leaves that come off. It just looks like a neon, glowing tree, and I just love seeing them. So if from around here, and if we're visiting, the tamarack, the larch, terrific trees to look at.
In the spring, they're kind of that neon green, and in the fall, they turn yellow, and they're a deciduous conifer, so they do lose their needles.
Love the larch. Love the larch.
Love the larch.
And again, just to recap, the Huckleberry Lookout Trail is about 12 miles round trip, gains 3,400 feet of elevation, so all the way up to the fire lookout. It's a great hike, and we love it and love to see you out there on this trail. Check out our Instagram page at Hiking Fools MT to see some great photos from this and our other recent adventures. And we ask you to tune in next time. Check out more episodes online, and remember to follow us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. I'm Josh.
And I'm Sarah.
And we are the Hiking Fools, encouraging you to always go.